Florida Live starts now.
Hey, good afternoon to you. Garrett Weimer here, and thanks for joining us on Florida Live. Today, it is a Friday afternoon, and we appreciate you joining us. If you're watching on Fox Local, YouTube, or on Fox 35, we appreciate you joining us. I do want to give you a live look at this hour at the Stardust Racers inside Epic Universe. They are closed. That ride is closed again today after a guest died earlier this week after being unresponsive after riding the Stardust Racers roller coaster. You see it there. Again, like I said, it's been closed since it happened. We learned that the victim in this, 32-year-old Kevin Rodriguez Zavala, according to the medical examiner's office, the cause of death was multiple blunt impact injuries, an accidental manner of death. Obviously, still a lot of questions about this. We know he was unresponsive when he got off the ride, was taken to the hospital where he died. We also heard from a witness who described what that scene was like when the roller coaster pulled back in to the station.
The attendant just starts screaming on the top of his lungs, "Everyone get out, get off of the coaster." We saw the lady jump over the railing, and we later found out that she was a doctor, and she went to administer emergency aid.
So people jumping in to try to help, but it was too late. Again, unresponsive at the time, taken to the hospital where he later died. We now know there are investigations underway trying to figure out what happened here, because there are still a lot of questions, a lot of things that we don't know about what exactly caused this, about what the circumstances were leading up to this, what the personal medical history of this person might have been like. There's just so much we don't know right now. But I did have the chance earlier to speak with Kim Wald, who is a personal injury trial attorney. She's a partner at the Haggard law firm. She was an attorney that represented the family of Tyre Sampson, who is the 14-year-old who died after falling from the Orlando freefall ride at Icon Park back in 2022. And I had the chance to speak with her about lessons learned from that case, and also what the investigation looks like, what is going on right now behind the scenes that we're not seeing as investigators and others try to piece together and figure out what happened and what caused this. Here's my conversation with Kim Wald.
So when I first heard what happened, my first thought was, not again. This is absolutely the worst thing that you can ever hear about, especially at an amusement park where you're supposed to be able to go and just have fun. Representing the family of Tyre Sampson, we learned that there's a lot of things that need to be done behind the scenes to make sure that these rides are safe and that people don't get injured on these rides. And as we start learning more information, we need to figure out exactly what happened on this ride and make sure that it couldn't have been prevented.
So is that part of what's happening now? Kind of take us behind the scenes. I know you would be familiar with what happens after something like this. What is going on right now when it comes to an investigation into this?
So there's going to be an investigation on a multi-point front here. First, Universal itself will be conducting their own investigation. We also know that the Department of Agriculture was on scene and is going to be involved. The extent of their involvement, again, is not really known at this time, because Universal, because of the size of their park and the nature of their employees, they're usually exempt from the Department of Agriculture and the inspections that the state typically does. Universal conducts their own inspections of these rides and then reports to the Department of Agriculture when there are problems. We know that the local law enforcement will also be part of this, and the investigations are really going to be on all three of those fronts, both from Universal, the Department of Agriculture, and local law enforcement.
What is the responsibility of Universal or any theme park and ride operators when it comes to this, and what sort of standards there are?
So there are many standards that exist. The ASTM standards, which are engineering standards and guidelines, they have an obligation, a duty to inspect these rides. We know that this is a German manufacturer of this ride, and they have to make sure that this ride operates safely, that there are no hazards, that there are no ways that a person can die from blunt force trauma when they are riding this type of a coaster. And so these are all questions that we're going to find the answers to when we get more information, when the medical examiner releases perhaps more information specifically detailing how these injuries occurred, where they occurred, the nature of the injuries themselves, where the blunt force trauma was. We also know in this particular case, the harness itself was only a lap harness. Should there have perhaps been a harness over your chest area to protect that? Again, we have to know more about the extent of the injuries, and then we're going to be able to fill in the gaps of what could have or should have been done to prevent a tragedy like this from occurring.
We also know there are often warnings when you're walking up to any ride at theme parks and places where it will kind of tell you maybe if you have certain issues not to get on this ride. I'm wondering what that does to protect entities from potential legal action in cases like this.
So in the case that we had previously, the Tyre Sampson case, the manufacturer actually had specific limitations about weight of individuals on a ride. And in that case, there weren't any warnings. And Tyre never should have actually been on that ride in the first place because he was too heavy. The harness didn't fit. And if there was a safety belt that installed, which there wasn't, that never would have clipped. So knowing what the manufacturer's recommendations are, what recommendations from similar rides and similar manufacturers are for this particular ride is going to be absolutely critical. What warnings should have been in place? If the warnings were in place, were they sufficient? Were they properly communicated? We know that this ride has only been open for a few months, and so all of these questions are still unknown at this time.
Kim, you talk about Tyre, and that was obviously a tragedy, first of all, but a case that has gotten a lot of attention. I'm wondering if you could talk about some of the lessons that we can take away from that and that kind of civil suit coming to an end, and how this applies and what we can learn from that as we move forward.
One of the most important lessons from Tyre's case was the transparency and learning the information as we received it. When we learned that there was a manipulation done to the seat that Tyre was on, that was absolutely critical information, because in that case, there were these free falls operating all throughout the United States and abroad. So knowing what actually was the failure in that case was critical for public safety. So for this particular case, my hope is once they know what happens, that information is immediately released to the public. Because if that can help any other ride that is currently operating and any person that's going on the rides, we need to know about that information now. That can't just stay hidden while the investigation continues.
Do you expect this ride, the Stardust Racers, to remain closed for a while? What's the process look like from here?
So the process, I anticipate it will be closed, whether it's a matter of weeks, whether it's a matter of months. That really depends on what they find out. They're going to be doing a number of testing. They'll probably be bringing in some independent engineers to do testing of the ride. They're going to be scavenging if there are any video surveillance showing exactly where the failure occurred, when this individual stopped breathing, when the individual had those blunt force traumas occur. All of that is going to be critical to when or if this ride can reopen.
Kim, what should people know and what should they keep in mind anytime they go to ride a ride, no matter where it is?
Be cognizant, be aware, make sure you are reading those signs. If you're too tall for the ride, don't try to do it. If you're too heavy for the ride, if you have fears, if you have any of those pre-existing conditions, we know these rides are supposed to be for fun and for amusement, but they can turn dangerous and in some situations can turn deadly. So it is not worth the risk. If you fit into one of those categories, please take that seriously. We don't want to see any of these other injuries or horribly deaths occur again.
We're going to take a break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back after this. Give you a live look right now at Port Canaveral from our Launch Credit Union camera there. See a couple of ships in port on this sunny Friday afternoon. Well, from Brevard County to the Bay Area, we've got you covered here on Florida Live, and appreciate you joining us this afternoon live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. It is time now for our Tampa connection, and for that we go to Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay, who joins us live from the Fox 13 newsroom. Nancy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Garrett. Today we're going to start in Polk County, where nearly 250 suspects have been arrested as part of an undercover human trafficking ring. Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd held one of his famous press conferences earlier this morning to give more details on Operation Fool Around and Find Out again. Judd said 2 of the suspects who were arrested during this operation were previously arrested during Operation Fool Around and Find Out. That investigation took place earlier this year. 2 Universal Studio Orlando employees, as well as 2 Disney World employees, and 9 people with military backgrounds are among those who were arrested. Now, 99 suspects, they are facing charges of soliciting prostitutes, including an Orange County Sheriff's Office law enforcement recruit. 111 suspects face charges of offering to commit prostitution. Now, 10 victims of human trafficking were identified, and they were offered services through One More Child and My Name, My Voice. 20 other suspects, they are facing prostitution-related charges, including aiding and abetting a prostitute or transporting a prostitute. And 15 of those suspects face charges of traveling to meet a minor for sex or other child sex-related crimes. And detectives have also issued a warrant for a 16th suspect in Jacksonville for online sex-related crimes. Florida's Attorney General James Uthmeier joined Judd for the press conference this morning, and he encouraged parents to be even more vigilant and know what their children are up to online, because in his words, evil people are finding new ways to get to your kids. Garrett?
Nancy, those numbers are striking. I mean, just even the top line, 246 people arrested in this, and we know it was only a week-long operation.
Yeah, it's definitely a large number for such a short time period. And as I mentioned, this was called Operation Fool Around and Find Out again. And the reason again was put in there is because they did a similar operation earlier this year. And as the sheriff noted, 2 of the people who were arrested during this operation were arrested during Operation and Fool Around and Find Out. So Grady Judd, he said that they clearly did not learn their lesson. And what Attorney General Uthmeier kept saying is it is so crucial to know what your children are doing online, because a lot of these suspects, they did meet underage children online, and they are trying to solicit them. So it's definitely so important to find out what your kids are doing online, because these people, they are finding different ways to try to communicate with those children.
Yeah, we hear that time and time again, but you really can't stress it enough, because you keep learning more and more about some of the dangers that are lurking out there.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of dangers out there, and obviously most children, especially teenagers, are not going to tell their parents everything they're up to and what they're doing and who they're talking to online. So I believe that is one of the main reasons why Uthmeier, he keeps stressing, like, get to know what your children are doing. I know up in Pasco County, the sheriff up there, he's like, go through your children's stuff online. They don't have any right to privacy when it comes to online, and it is for their protection.
Well, and one other thing, when it comes to that point, was the CFO, Blazin Golia, at that news conference earlier today, and he was saying that he wants to see some of these social media apps, these companies taking some steps to get rid of encryption and disappearing messages when it comes to any account that involves a minor. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of what comes from this, and if there are some changes.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting to see what will happen, and if any of those changes will be made in the future. Hopefully there won't be Operation Fool Around and Find Out again, take 2, because this was something that had happened just earlier this year, and that netted a large number of suspects. This netted 246 suspects, so it will definitely be interesting to see what happens in the future and if it prevents some of these incidents from occurring. Yeah,
certainly hope so. Story number 2 here, Nancy, and this is an odd find for security at the airport in Tampa.
Yes, this is definitely a bizarre story. The director of field operations for the U.S. Customs and Border Protection said that bones, including a skull, were found inside of a duffel bag here at Tampa International Airport. Now, he said that the traveler apparently declared 10 cigars, but agricultural specialists discovered undeclared cigars, prohibited plants, as well as a foil-wrapped duffel bag containing what appeared to be human remains, including that skull. You see that right there on your screen. Now, in a post on social media, the CPP stated that the traveler claimed that these items were being used for rituals. However, due to serious health risks, those items were seized and destroyed. Now, as of right now, we do not know where that traveler was headed or where they were coming from. Again, they did say that this was being used for some type of ritual, but is definitely a very bizarre find here at Tampa International Airport.
Kind of sends a shiver down your spine, Nancy. I don't know about you.
Yeah, it sure does. Seeing those photos are definitely disturbing. And to think that they found these inside of a duffel bag that was wrapped in foil, so that should give a clue right there that there's probably something in that duffel bag that shouldn't be there.
Yeah, no doubt about that. And finally, our third and final story in the Tampa Connection today, an illegal gambling operation found.
Yes, that's right. There are actually 2 illegal gambling operations that have been shut down across the bay in St. Petersburg. Now, 3 people have been arrested in connection with those 2 illegal gambling arcades. Agents also seized 60 slot machines, 6 fish tables. Now, those are gambling video game tables. And they also seized about $20,000 in cash from those 2 locations. St. Pete Representative Corey Givens Jr. said that illegal gambling locations in South St. Pete are actually an open secret. St. Pete police call logs show that officers were called to each location more than a dozen times just this year alone. And on average, they were called at least once a month, with police responding to each location. Police say they got complaints from both locations about trash and noise. And at the 49th Street Arcade, police responded to noise complaints and complaints about partying. At the 16th Street South location, police actually responded to calls for trespassing and burglary. Now, Florida law strictly regulates gambling, with slot machines permitted only in licensed gaming. Now, unlike sanctioned gambling, there are no consumer protections at illegal gambling houses or arcades. In unregulated betting, the odds are often overly stacked against the customer. And now, if you suspect illegal gambling activity is taking place, you are encouraged to report it to the Florida Gaming Control Commission online. Garrett?
All right. So, Fox 13 digital content producer Nancy Gay, we appreciate you joining us today for our Tampa Connection.
Thank you.
One other thing that came out of that news conference in Polk County, where it was the sheriff and the attorney general were also asked about open carry. We talked a little bit about this yesterday because of some of the new guidance that has been issued to law enforcement from the attorney general's office after the Court of Appeals basically struck down the state's previous ban on open carry in the state. Here is what Sheriff Judd and Attorney General James Uthmeyer said about that when they were asked about it earlier today.
And I will say this. As of the 25th, open carry is the law. And as I've explained in the community, all of the laws of the state of Florida kind of interlace so that we have straight borders, so we understand this is against the law, this isn't. When you pluck a piece of that out like the appellate court did, without the opportunity to shore up the rest of it, it makes the rest of the law a little wonky. So what I have spoken to the Attorney General, and I'm going to he is the man. He's the subject matter expert. The Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, and the Chief of Staff for the Governor saying, we just need some help so we can redefine and get these lines straight again. And our Attorney General, who's the best, has already given us some direction and guidance on that. And I'll turn it over because he is the man that knows it best.
Sure. Well, the first DCA, the appellate court up in northern Florida, struck down the long-standing Florida statute that prohibits brandishing a weapon, prohibits open carry. That court ruled that such a law is inconsistent with the Second Amendment of our United States Constitution, interpreted with the meaning of the founders. So what that means is that applies to the whole state. If there's no other appellate court ruling on the topic, then the first DCA's opinion will apply statewide. So as an initial matter, you've got law on the books that prohibits open carry. I've issued guidance to law enforcement and prosecutors. We're not going to be enforcing violations of that law given this new opinion. But that's going to have to be addressed, taken out of Florida statute, and an open carry law's got to be put back in place. So I'm not going to get into a lot of detail right now. I know lawmakers are reading, dissecting, and there is some inconsistencies because you had the concealed carry, permitless carry, constitutional carry that was passed while there was no open carry. Obviously now open carry is a constitutional important right that people can exercise. So I'll leave it there.
And what we're sharing with the community is you need to be very, very careful. Open carry is going to be the law, but there are still places and times you can't carry, and the appellate court alluded to that. And a private business can say, we don't want open carry on our premises. And if you open carry on the premises and you're asked to leave and you fail to leave, then you're not just committing a misdemeanor trespass, you're committing a felonious armed trespass at that point in time. So I suggest to those that want to open carry, be cautious, because open carry does not mean all the time, everywhere. And you'll get further direction as the legislature meets, as the Attorney General said, and tightens up what's left of the law.
We're going to take a break here on Florida Live. As we do so, give you a live look at Daytona Beach from our Hard Rock Hotel camera. We'll be right back with more after this. Give you a live look right now at downtown Orlando, and you see Lake Eola there. a big part of the City Beautiful, and a special event going on there tomorrow morning at Lake Eola Park. It's the Walk for Lives. Walk to raise awareness and an end to fentanyl poisoning. Welcome back into Florida Live. Garrett Weimer here, and we appreciate you joining us on this Friday afternoon, live on Fox Local, YouTube, and on Fox 35. And that effort tomorrow, that walk, is a personal mission of one Orlando mother who has been through a lot, but is using her story to try to help others. And she joins me live now via Zoom, Gretchen Murray. Gretchen, good afternoon. We appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live.
Thank you for having me.
First of all, just to talk to us about this event tomorrow, what you want people to know about it. I know you're working on getting things ready for it, but expecting a good crowd out there tomorrow for this Walk for Lives.
We are. So we're excited to bring Walk for Lives to Orlando, which is an event that is being organized through the United Against Fentanyl organization, which it's a grassroots effort to be able to do some community education, spread some awareness, and hopefully put an end to fentanyl-related deaths across the United States.
Gretchen, this is something that is personal for you. You have felt this pain because of your son, but have used what happened to try to prevent others from feeling that pain. If you could share us a little bit of your story.
Well, I lost my only child, my son Gage, to a fentanyl poisoning in September of 2022. And, you know, in an effort to honor him and keep his memory alive and to help other families from going through this journey, I've kind of dedicated the last several years to spreading awareness and trying to get legislation in place to help combat the fentanyl crisis that we're still dealing with.
Yeah, you fought to help pass what is called Gage's Law, House Bill 1195. Talk to us about that. Yeah. and what that means to you.
Well, it was important because after what our family experienced and you know, through no one gets a playbook for what to do when you get put in this situation. So it was very personal and something that I felt needed to be done for mandatory fentanyl testing in hospital settings when people come in of a suspected overdose or poisoning. You know, that's the first thing that they need to be doing is determining, is it fentanyl and how much? And it's important, you know, for multiple reasons to be able to save lives.
Why was it so important for you in the aftermath of Gage's death to take what happened and try to prevent it from happening to others, whether it's with this walk, whether it was the battle in Tallahassee helping with Gage's Law? How did you turn that pain into purpose?
Well, it's important because it's certainly a journey that no family wants to go through, and whatever I can do to help others spread awareness and make sure there's education out there and there's tools to be able to prevent further death. It was just very important to me. It's not an easy journey. No one ever chooses to go through this, and I certainly don't want my fellow people in the community to experience what we've had to go through over the last almost 3 years.
And fentanyl believed to be one of the top causes of death in the country now, which is mind-blowing. And so I imagine every time you hold one of these events, when you're interacting with people, I am sure you have other people who come up to you and share their stories as well.
I do. I mean, fentanyl-related deaths is the #1 cause of death in the United States of people ages 18 to 45 now. And that should be alarming to everyone. Fentanyl affects everyone. It doesn't matter, you know, what race you are, what religion, what your political affiliation or your socioeconomic position is. It's affecting everyone. So it's important that everyone is aware that this is happening, and hopefully we'll be able to start seeing the numbers continue to go down, but go down further than they are.
What is your message when you talk to other people, and when you hold things like this? What do you want them to know?
I just want them to know that this is real. This is happening to children, to babies, to adults, to young people, and it's important for everyone to have that knowledge of what this is. I ask people that I come into contact with, out in the community, what do you know about fentanyl? And I am still astonished at how many people have no idea what it is, what it's being put in, between lacing it in drugs or the counterfeit pills, and it just needs to be more present. I think the education needs to start with younger children. They need to be aware of this. There's going to be a banner at our event tomorrow of all of the teenagers across the United States that have lost their lives to a fentanyl poisoning. We're also going to have a banner of all the babies. We're talking infants to toddlers that are going to be shown at this event. And these are real people. These are the faces of the victims out there. So I just want people to know to make sure that they can protect their loved ones.
And we've seen awareness come a long way when it comes to fentanyl, and when it also comes to naloxone, the availability of that. We have also seen access to that increase, but we have learned that there's still work to be done, it seems, when it comes to that. What additional steps do you want to see? What more needs to be done? How do we continue to fight the scourge of fentanyl and keep fighting this opioid crisis?
Well, I think the next steps, quite honestly, with the drug cartels that are staying ahead of the game, the fentanyl laws are now in place in a lot of states, which are great, except they're already looking at different substances that don't carry the same weight in terms of prosecutions and so forth. So it's important to stay ahead of that and get those laws in place. Nitazene, which is the next thing, and cartels are already using that and lacing that into drugs, and also the counterfeit pills, and that's 40 times stronger than fentanyl. So it's very important for us to get ahead of it. It took several years for us to get obviously where we are now, and then at the height of the fentanyl deaths, which was just a few years ago, we want to stay ahead of that curve, because nitazenes is going to be the next thing on the horizon, unfortunately. So it's important to get those laws in place for that, get it scheduled. Also to, for example, xylazine, which is another substance that they're mixing into drugs, and xylazine does not run due to naloxone. So you get someone licensed with xylazine, there's no bringing you back if you stop breathing, and there's not medical attention there for you. So I am so honored to also be able to partner with this event. My main sponsor is Victoria's Voice Foundation, and with the great work that the Seagulls have done with bringing naloxone to Florida and making it so readily available across the United States, it's an honor to be able to partner with them at this event.
Tell us everything we need to know. Before I let you go, tell us everything we need to know about this event tomorrow in case folks are interested in coming out.
So the event will start at 9 a.m. and registration, if you haven't registered, you can go to walkforlives.org and register there. It only takes a minute. We will have some speakers. We've got some great speakers, actually. We've got lawmakers, law enforcement. We've got people from the recovery section, and we also have a great vendor fair with lots of resources available for the community, from local nonprofits to local businesses, and also treatment centers, and there's free testing, and we'll also have lots of free naloxone to hand out. We will have a live band playing right after which Karen, the manager, and it's just going to be a family event, everyone together. There's going to be a lot of survivors there who were left behind after losing their loved ones to fentanyl, and it's just a nice way to honor our loved ones and bring the community together.
Gretchen Murray, we appreciate you sharing your story with us, and we appreciate all the work you do in the community to help others in this ongoing fight against fentanyl. So we appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here on Florida Live, but we'll be right back with more. Again, at the Walk for Lives at Lake Eola, beginning at 9 a.m. tomorrow. You can get more information and register at walkforlives.org. We'll be right back. Live look at the U.S. Capitol in Washington, D.C. on this Friday afternoon. Tracking a little bit of breaking news for you, where the U.S. Senate just in the last little bit confirmed Mike Waltz as the next U.S. ambassador to the United Nations. He, of course, was a former congressman from Central Florida here, was President Trump's national security advisor before leaving that role in the aftermath of the Signalgate controversy. Then President Trump nominated him for the UN ambassador role, and he has now been confirmed. So Mike Waltz confirmed as the UN ambassador. We are also tracking some sports news that will have an impact on some youth players in our area and also some tournaments. We know Florida is a place where you can play baseball year-round, but Major League Baseball adopting some rules when it comes to scouting. Basically implementing a dead period during some winter months to encourage a little bit of downtime and maybe some lower competition to help prevent injuries and a number of other things. This was something I talked about earlier today with Jarrett Seidler. He's a senior writer with Baseball Prospectus. He broke down what this means and what the impacts are for folks here in Florida.
So MLB has been studying pitcher injuries and player injuries over the last few years. There's been an increase both for major leaguers, minor leaguers, and also even college and amateur players, and especially elbow and shoulder injuries, arm injuries for pitchers. So a couple of years ago, they started doing a study over what was the root cause of some of those issues. And some of it is unavoidable, the increase in stuff, the increase in velocity. But one of the findings was that amateur players, especially high school players, were just playing year-round now. They were playing essentially all the way through, throwing at full velocity, weren't playing other sports, were over-specializing on baseball from a younger and younger age. So what MLB has done is, from the period between October 15th and January 15th for high school players, and for college players between November 15th and January 15th, so the periods are a little bit different depending on the type of player, the MLB teams are not allowed to scout those players anymore. They're not allowed to go collect video. They're not allowed to do in-person scouting of those players. Nothing that happens during that period can be tracked and analyzed by an MLB team. So they're basically disincentivizing players to continue playing full effort, showcase type baseball during that period, which is, it kind of tracks with the period of the off season for professional baseball too. You know, most players are done by sometime in October, and they'll start ramping up sometime in January to start training for the new season. They may do some training during the off season, but it's usually not in full effort game situations. So it's an attempt to reduce the game situations for younger players in a period where that's not kind of typically during the baseball calendar. What had been happening in recent years is more showcase events, especially smaller ones, less major ones, were popping up during the winter, especially in locations like Florida, where the weather's warmer and you can play baseball year-round if you want to. So there's a creation of a disincentive for that, an attempt to reduce injuries, and also a side attempt to kind of just give baseball scouts the holidays off, too, because I don't think anybody really wants to be out there scouting a high school baseball tournament on December 29th. That's usually a time of year that, you know, need some off time, spend some time with the families. And also for the kids, there is generally kind of a desire to see kids play football or basketball or something like that during the winter instead of throwing at full effort pitching the entire year round.
What do you think of this move, Jarrett? And do you think it will be effective? Do you think it'll work to do some of these things that they're looking to do?
I think this is a positive. Back when, we were kids, there just wasn't a concept that you'd be throwing a full effort baseball game on January 3rd or something like that. And that can't be good for the arm health, especially of younger players. So I think it's a good effort to just give some kids some time off for physical reasons, for mental reasons, just in the whole of the picture. It also roughly coincides with the NCAA quiet period for recruiting. So there's basically, they've removed the incentive for kids to think they have to play baseball in November, December, early January to get noticed by professional teams or recruiting. I don't think it's going to solve the problem of elbow injuries across baseball, but I do think it'll probably be moderately effective in fixing the particular problem of kids throwing at full effort for 12 months out of the year trying to get noticed by scouts.
Do you think it puts, or do you think there's the possibility of it putting more pressure on these kids to perform more in the other periods of time, since they will, kind of in theory have less opportunity to be noticed?
A little bit, but there's already a lot of pressure if you're a rising amateur player that might be selected on day one of the MLB draft. Everything you do for your entire, basically starting in the summer before the draft, because the heaviest period for player evaluation for the upcoming prep season is the summer and fall before the draft. It's not actually the spring.
We've got to talk. This is a new
So good is what you're facing when you're facing the other best high school players in the country. So I think a little bit of that, but there's also already going to be a lot of pressure, and also a lot of the real high-level scouting is already done by the period where this kind of new quiet period kicks in.
So you mentioned Florida. Do you see any impact here in Florida, or what impact could we see here in a place where there are a lot of these, kind of year-round programs?
There's going to be, I think, less major tournament activity going on in the dead of winter. That had started popping up. That's what this is intended to get rid of. It's intended to get rid of, like, the Christmas break major scouting tournaments. In terms of the regular, like, high school baseball schedule, even the Florida high school baseball schedule really isn't kicking up until the second week of February. You're just not seeing, like, high school games played that early. They're going to be scouted by professional scouts. So not in terms of, like, the regular prep schedule, but I do think the intention of this is to reduce and stop. Also, moving forward, these tournaments were increasing. More and more of them were popping up, and that was going to continue to happen, where the showcase season was going to continue to extend into later October, November, December. Currently, the last major tournament is the World Wood Bat Tournament in the second week of October down in Jupiter. And we're kind of setting that as the end of the season. That's just going to be the end of that kind of showcase period moving forward. So I think there's going to be a few less travel ball type tournaments over the winter. But also, if kids want to continue playing over the winter just to improve and train, I think there's still going to be opportunities for them to do that. They're just not going. The MLB scouts aren't going to be able to pop in to see the results of that until the third or fourth week of January. So it's not as huge of a change in terms of the high school baseball side of it. It's just more of a change in when they're going to be evaluated in the games they've made over the winter.
So bottom line it for us, Jared, what's the takeaway here? What should people know?
I think this is a really good move to try and reduce how much players, especially teenagers, we're talking about 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, are throwing year-round at full effort, which we've generally known for a while is not very good. And I think this will reduce that in a decent amount.
Certainly something to watch, and we will continue to watch those impacts, because we do know there are a lot of folks who do play year-round around here, but generally it seems like potentially positive step there, and we'll see hopefully some impacts when it comes to reducing injuries. That is something that we see more and more, it seems, just a lot of concern over that. Well, we appreciate you joining us here on Florida Live. We're going to take another quick break. As we do so, give you a live look at the Dow Jones Industrial. The index there, stock market trending up today, up 117 points right now, with a little over an hour left before it closes for the day. So keep it right here on Florida Live, and we will be right back after this.
This is a new show for all of you. I could be your new best friend because I got a box, but unfortunately, you're on Zoom today.
Yeah, I know. Like, all right, well, taste it for me and tell me, because I love some Rocky Road ice cream.
These guys are going to Florida as hard as they can. They're trying to knock each other over and not spill that beer in the process.
First things first, there's a new steakhouse if you didn't tell me about.
Well, I'm sorry. Maybe you should be checking my Instagram more at the Orlando Shine, and you wouldn't miss it.
Hundreds of families are going to Disney World several times a week or even every single day as part of their homeschooling curriculum. So what do you think about that? Is this fair?
Here's my question. Where's recess? Everywhere? And where do you graduate? Space Mountain?
And that menu is something I've never seen inside of a grocery store.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend.
I want you to choose the news. Just pick which news story you want to see. Join the Zoom. I'd like to hear your opinions. What say you? Are we liking it or not? Now, how hard was it for you walking away from social media?
Oh, so that was the easiest thing I could have done.
From warm smiles at our favorite grocery stores, down to the southern swampy charm, and just feel-good stories about the people who spread smiles all across the community. This is all about you. Like it or not, I want to know.
A new show starting on Monday, the 407. You're going to be able to watch that weekdays at 4 o'clock right here on Fox 35. Now, if you're watching us on Fox Local right now, you've probably already seen it. That's because it has been streaming for, a couple of weeks now. Joining me live now here in our streaming studio is Marlisa Goldsmith, Fox 35 a news reporter and anchor and the host of the 407.
Yes.
And congratulations.
Thank you, Garrett. I am so happy to be a part of what we're doing here. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. I mean, this is the idea that people have had. They want to be more interactive. They want to engage more. We've listened to you all. We've gotten your calls. We've gotten your emails. We've seen your post on social media. This is the show that you all have been wanting. And you have an opportunity to interact, to engage with me and the rest of the crew here on the 407 each and every day. Garrett, I don't know if you have seen, but there's like this little QR code that will be posted up throughout the entire show.
I vote every day.
You do?
I vote every day.
Good. And I need all of you all to vote as well. So what you do is you take your phone, your smart device, whatever you have, and when you see the QR code pop up on the screen, you just scan it. It's simple as that. You'll be prompted to open up a tab that will open up a link, whatever your external browser link is, and then you'll go to the website, which is fox35orlando.com/your407. And once you get there, you will see the webpage there. Beautiful, might I add. And then there are several tabs for you to participate. There are things, we have a segment called Like It or Not, where I get together with a group of viewers every single week, Thursdays at 2:15. Put that in your calendar. We have the Zoom link posted on our Facebook page right now, and you'll see it in other places too. But that is where we have a conversation. I know that it's the middle of the day, Garrett, so if you're at work,
or if you're watching Florida, they're probably watching Florida Live at that point.
At work too.
At work.
So,
but they could take a few minutes.
Yeah. I'm just asking you to do one more little small thing. So you can take a few minutes, jump on the Zoom call, and we talk about a range of topics. I mean, it's good.
Yeah, so I've heard you talk about those, and that's the thing I'm most curious about. And I'm sad that I'm unable to join because I'm a little bit busy at 2:15 on Thursdays. But I just talk to me about a little bit about that. I think that's really cool that you're just inviting people to join the Zoom call and
join and chat.
Yeah,
I know, and I feel like people don't really have an idea of what to expect because it's like, all right, this crazy lady has asked me to get onto Zoom to talk to her. What are we talking? Because we don't let anybody know the topics in advance. But they're topics that you all are probably already talking about at home, maybe in your group chats with your friends. We're talking about things like Halloween decorations year-round. Do you like to see it? Do you hate it? What do you have to say? Because the HOAs have a lot to say, but what do you have to say? What are you and your friends talking about in your group chats? Other things include lavish birthday parties for children. I mean, we've seen that where people are going all out. They're hiring event planners for these one-year-olds who are never even going to remember the actual event. I mean, honestly, at that age, the party's really for the parents. Let's be honest.
So what has been your favorite part of this process, kind of launching this new show? What's been your favorite part so far?
I think my favorite part has gotten to be using a part of my brain that I feel like I have not been able to use for years, if not decades, because this is a creative show. Once you get into the cycle of news, and when you're doing traditional hard news, which I've been doing for about 15 years now, you are doing, I don't want to say the same thing every day because it is a different story every day. But when it comes to the creativity with regular journalism, you're giving the facts. But for this, I get to have conversations with people that are extended conversations, similarly to what you've been able to do with your shows, Garrett, where you're talking with people for 5 minutes. We have a cutoff time when you do traditional news stories that nobody wants to hear a story go on for 10 minutes, but these people, they're fascinating. So you get to kind of go deeper into, it's not just surface level with the interviews that we do, the people that we go see, and we also get to do fun things. At the end of the month, there's a group of elderly ladies in the villages. They taught me how to do the Thriller dance.
I cannot wait for that.
I know. So it's like stuff like that. You know, we have several segments with them. They take it very seriously.
As they should.
As they should. It's super fun, and you're not going to want to miss it. Every single day is different. It's been different for me. It's going to be different for you all watching.
Well, 4 o'clock weekdays. Can't wait to watch that premiere on Fox 35 on Monday. Marlisa, congratulations.
Thank you, Garrett.
I'll be voting and hopefully maybe join the Zoom one day from the set here. So we'll see.
Oh, let's make that happen.
All right. Well, and thank you for joining us on Florida Live today. We will leave you with a view of downtown Orlando. Have a great night. Have a great weekend.